Hello again, first graders. This video is going to be kind of short. It is just going to help us look at pictographs again, but this time we're going to look at three different data points or three different pieces of information that's represented in the graph. So the ones we've looked at previously only had two different things that we're comparing. This one has three. So this example has a graph of people's favorite meal. So the person that made the graph asked a bunch of people what their favorite meal was, and they had to choose between breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So as we're looking at this, we have to consider what the questions are that we're trying to figure out when we're looking at the graph. Because sometimes we're going to have to look at all of the different information that's represented here, all of the data points, and sometimes we're only going to have to look at one or two of them. So we really have to pay attention to what the question is asking us and then think about what kind of information do I need to look at on the graph to answer it. So the first question here says, which meal is the favorite? So anytime we're looking at a favorite something, we need to think about, well, if it's the favorite of all the people that voted, that means it would be the one that got the most votes. So in this particular graph, their picture graph, they decided to represent the data with cubes, pictures of cubes. So each cube represents one vote for that meal. So red is for breakfast, yellow is for lunch, and blue is for dinner. So if I'm looking at the favorite, I want to see which one has the most pictures next to it representing the most votes. So one easy way to think of that is to kind of do that quick comparing and see which one goes out the farthest. So we read a graph kind of like we read anything else, starting at the left and moving out to the right. So we can see that blue, if I look at these ones, all are continuing, but the rest of them stop here, and blue goes past the rest of them. So it's clearly the favorite by quite a few. I can also count the different results or the different votes and see. So breakfast got 3, lunch got 1, and dinner got 6. So I can tell that 6 is the largest number, and so I can tell that dinner is the favorite meal of everyone that voted. So in that question, I had to look at all of them to see which one had the most. Let's look at the next question. How many fewer people prefer lunch than dinner? So in this particular question, how many fewer people prefer lunch than dinner? It's another one of those that's much like the story problems that we've been working on throughout the year. And so we're pros at those, and we can use our strategies that we already know by looking at the graph and figuring it out. So if I want to know how many fewer, that means less. And it says specifically prefer lunch than dinner. So in this question, I only need to pay attention to lunch and dinner. Right now, I don't need to focus on breakfast at all. And remember, when I'm looking at this data as well, I'm not considering the pictures that are in the key down here, or the labels that tell me what each picture represents. So I'm not including these ones over here. I'm just looking on this side of the graph. So comparing lunch and dinner. So again, if I'm comparing the two, I want to match them up and see how many don't have partners. So this particular one, lunch only got 1 vote. And so all of these extra are going to be how many more people voted, so, or how many fewer. So if 6 of them chose dinner as their favorite and only 1 voted for lunch, that means that lunch had 5 fewer votes or dinner had 5 more. So this one in particular says how many fewer. So we know that either way it's 5 when I'm comparing the difference between the two. But lunch had 5 fewer votes. Let's look at the last question, because this one can be another one that seems like it's kind of tricky, but it's really not. Which meal got 3 votes? So the important word there is 3 votes. So I could be looking at any of them. It's not asking me specifically about breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I just want to know which one had 3 votes. And so what we have to really be careful about is making sure we're looking at the correct part of the graph, this part over here that represents the information that they took in their surveys. So all I have to do in this one is see which one got 3. Well, we know dinner had 6, lunch had 1, and breakfast has 1, 2, 3 votes. So we know that breakfast got 3 votes. So what I really want you to take away today from this video is as you're looking at data in a graph, whether there are 2 things that it's looking at or 3, then what we really have to do is pay careful attention to the question that it's asking and those keywords. So it's a lot like story problems that we've solved before, but there's already a picture there to help us out. So really pay attention to what it's asking you and just ask yourself if it makes sense and really think about what's represented there and what the question's asking you.